Some guys punch out at 4 and never think about work again until Monday morning. Me? I stayed. I stayed late, picked up shifts on holidays, skipped vacations, and volunteered for every brutal inspection run the hangar could throw at me. Why? Because I believed that if I kept grinding, if I kept pushing, I'd earn more than a paycheck. I'd earn respect, authority, a title that meant something. My name's Matthew. I'm 38, and I live in San Diego. I've been an aircraft mechanic for almost 15 years. The kind who knows the hum of a healthy jet engine better than his own heartbeat. And through all of it, every 4 a.m. start time, every missed birthday dinner, I had one constant. Francesca. We met through mutual friends when I was 29. I remember thinking she had this quiet kind of warmth, like someone who didn't need to show off to be noticed. She worked in finance, managed portfolios for people who owned houses I couldn't afford to drive past. But she never made me feel less than. If anything, she made me feel more. Like I wasn't just a guy who could fix planes, but someone building a future. Our future. We've been married for 6 years now. And if there's one thing I've always believed about us, it's that we were a team. She was the one who encouraged me to take night classes when I considered specializing. She brought me dinner when I worked weekends. She believed in what I was building, even when I was too exhausted to see it clearly myself. So when I was shortlisted for lead hangar chief, something only 2 other guys in our department had ever earned, I didn't feel nervous. I felt proud. Ready. Like I'd done it the right way. Earned it, hour by hour. The company's Maintenance and Innovation Gala is coming up next week. Every year, they use it to hand out awards, celebrate big projects, and, quietly, announce high-level promotions. That's when the big shots fly in. The board. The contractors. The people who don't wear coveralls. It's black tie, high stakes, and the place where careers quietly leap forward or quietly stall out. I already picked out the suit I'm going to wear. Francesca helped me choose it. Deep navy, sharp cut. Said it made me look like someone who ran the place. And I believed her. Because that's how she's always been. My sounding board. My better half. The one who looked at me with this calm certainty, like she knew I'd get there. So yeah, I'm walking into that gala next week feeling pretty damn sure of myself. Not cocky. Just solid. Because I stayed behind when others clocked out. I chased this thing with everything I had. And most of all, because I know who will be standing next to me when my name's finally called. Or at least, I think I do. The night of the gala, the whole place looked like a movie set. Polished marble floors, white tablecloths, string quartet in the corner. Everything gleamed. Even the jets parked outside the glass walls looked like props from a luxury ad campaign. Francesca looked stunning. Hair pinned up, navy dress hugging her figure in a way that made even the flight captains do a double take. She clung to my arm as we walked in, flashing that easy, effortless smile of hers. The one that always made me feel like the luckiest guy in the room. I introduced her around, first to the guys from the floor, then to a few of the mid-level directors. They all smiled, said things like, "You clean up nice, Torres," or "She's way out of your league, man." Francesca laughed, took it in stride. I was used to that kind of ribbing. Then came the real introductions. Howard Blake, Chief Operations Officer. The guy who decides who gets the big chair in the hangar. Early 50s, tall, salt and pepper hair, always had that slightly impatient look like he was already halfway into his next conversation. I reached out, steady hand, confident grip. "Mr. Blake. Matthew Torres. This is my wife, Francesca." Howard looked at me just long enough to register my name, then turned to her. "Ah, Mrs. Torres. A pleasure." He took her hand like he was greeting royalty. "I've heard about your husband. One of our most dedicated guys." Francesca smiled. "He definitely is. The hardest working man I've ever known." Howard chuckled. "Well, I hope he's not the hardest working man in your life all the time. You deserve some attention too." It was meant as a joke, I think. Francesca laughed, not awkwardly. She tossed her hair back, gave him this playful look I hadn't seen before. "Don't worry, I make sure of it." Howard's grin lingered. At first, I chalked it up to charm. He's a top-tier executive. They're all a little too smooth for their own good. But as the night went on, I started noticing things. Every time we'd mingle, somehow Francesca and Howard would end up near each other again. He'd lean in when he spoke to her. Not close enough to be inappropriate, but just enough to notice. She'd touch his arm when she laughed, tilt her head a certain way. It was subtle, polished, but not invisible. I tried not to let it get to me. She was just being friendly. Networking, maybe. She was good at that sort of thing. I mean, that's what people do with these things, right? Then one of the guys from my crew, Jeremy, nudged me while I was sipping my drink. "You're a calmer man than I am," he said quietly, eyes locked on something across the room. I followed his gaze. Howard and Francesca, standing near the bar. Her hand rested lightly on his sleeve as he whispered something that made her throw her head back and laugh. Jeremy whistled low. My wife and the COO looking like that? I'd lose my damn mind. I didn't answer. Just stared for a second longer than I should have. Then I forced a laugh and turned back to the room. Still confident. Still proud. But for the first time that night, something unsettled started curling in my gut. I told myself it was nothing. But something told me it wasn't. About an hour into the event, the speeches started. Toasts, thank yous, department highlights. I kept half an ear tuned to the stage while chatting with a couple of engineers I used to pull 12-hour shifts with back when the hangar was running on fumes. Francesca leaned in and whispered, I'm gonna step away. Need to take this real quick. She flashed her phone at me. Some number I didn't recognize. Won't be long. I nodded. You good? Yeah, she said with a smile. It's probably work. Might be the Tokyo client. All right. I'll be near the buffet. She kissed my cheek and disappeared into the mingling crowd, heels clicking against the floor like she belonged there more than I did. At first, I didn't think anything of it. I sipped my drink, laughed at a joke I barely heard, tried to stay present. After all, this was supposed to be a night to remember. I was expecting to hear my name before the evening was over. But after 10, maybe 15 minutes, I started glancing around. No sign of her. I checked near the bar, the terrace, the hallway toward the restrooms. Nothing. I pulled out my phone. No messages. No missed calls. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. And that's when something clicked in my chest, like a cold metal switch flipping without warning. I hadn't seen Howard either. I scanned the room. He wasn't by the bar, wasn't glad-handing contractors, wasn't near the exec table. He was just gone. I told myself it was coincidence. Maybe he stepped out to take a call too. Maybe they both just, God, I don't know, ended up in the same hallway. Still, my feet started moving before I had a full thought formed. Past the caterers clearing glasses. Past the heavy exit doors marked staff only. I knew the layout. This was the old corporate hangar lounge. Behind it were a few storage corridors and maintenance paths they kept closed off for events like this. I turned down one narrow hallway. Dim, carpeted. Half-lit exit signs humming above the door frames. Francesca. I called out, keeping my voice steady. You good? Nothing. A cleaning cart sat abandoned near a side door. I tried to laugh at myself. Tried to picture her checking emails in the restroom or chatting with someone near the balcony where reception's always bad. But my gut said otherwise. It wasn't paranoia. It was instinct. The kind you sharpen over years of watching for the one part out of place, the one rattle under the engine no one else can hear. I rounded a corner and stopped. At the end of the hall was a locked break room door, staff only. Lights on inside. Shadows moving. Low voices. Then, barely audible, a short laugh. Followed by something else. A sound I couldn't unhear. I stood there, my heart hammering in my chest, one hand tightening into a fist. I knew. Not officially. Not completely. But I knew. And I also knew I wasn't walking away without the truth. I stood in front of that break room door, listening. A muffled voice. Definitely hers. Then a chuckle that didn't belong to me. Another rustle. A breathy sound that shot ice through my chest. My fingers trembled, just for a second, but I got it under control. I raised my hand and knocked. Not loud. Just enough to be heard. Francesca. Silence. No footsteps. No shuffle. Just a pregnant pause, like someone had slammed on the brakes inside. Then came the quiet scurry. The soft thump of movement. A whispered curse. I didn't move. Didn't bang the door open. I just stood there and waited. After about 5 seconds, the handle turned. The door cracked open. She stepped out first. Hair a little messier than before. Lipstick slightly faded. Eyes wide. Face flushed in a way that had nothing to do with champagne. Behind her, Howard emerged. Straightening his collar. Not meeting my eyes. Francesca opened her mouth like she was about to say something. Maybe a joke. Maybe a lie. But I raised one hand. Don't. I took out my phone. Hit record. Held it in front of me. This is Matthew Torres, I said, voice flat, calm. Friday night. Maintenance and Innovation Gala. Back hallway outside the staff break room. I turned the phone just slightly to catch both of them in frame. Francesca reached out like she wanted to stop me. Matthew, please. It's not what to. Howard said nothing. Just stared past me like I wasn't there. I just needed to talk to him, she stammered. It wasn't. We weren't. I let the silence do the work. Howard finally cleared his throat. This isn't appropriate to discuss here. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I zoomed in once more on his face. You're the Chief Operations Officer of Western Aero Systems. Anything you'd like to clarify for the record? He blinked. His jaw flexed, but no words came. Francesca looked like she was going to cry. Her mascara already smudged, like the tears had started before the door even opened. I hit stop, slid the phone into my jacket pocket, and without another word, I turned and walked away. I didn't yell. I didn't demand an explanation. I didn't make a scene in the hallway. I didn't have to. I walked back through that gala like a ghost. Like a man already gone. I nodded at the bartender, picked up my coat, and stepped into the cool night air. The applause inside, probably for some project award, echoed through the glass doors behind me. but it sounded a million miles away. That moment? It wasn't rage. It wasn't heartbreak. It was clarity. They had done it, and I had captured it. Not to punish, not to scream, just to make sure no one ever told me I imagined it. The betrayal was real, and now it belonged to them. I got home before midnight. The house was dark, quiet, same as it always was after a late shift or a long night. I dropped my keys in the tray by the door and hung up my jacket, calm and methodical, like I'd just come from a work dinner. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Francesca. I didn't look at the screen, just silenced it and set it face down on the counter. She called again before I made it down the hall. Then again while I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, unbuttoning my shirt. I watched myself peel off the layers like I was shedding someone else's life. Still no anger. Just a kind of weightless exhaustion, like all the gravity had drained out of the room. Then the front door opened. I heard her before I saw her, heels clicking on the tile, breath ragged. She didn't call out my name. Just stood there in the entryway like a wrecked version of the woman I'd walked in with earlier. Her voice cracked when she finally spoke. Matthew. I didn't answer. She walked closer, mascara streaked down her cheeks, her eyes swollen from crying. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said, almost whispering. It was stupid. I don't even know what I was thinking. I looked up from the sink. Our eyes met in the mirror. You don't have to say anything, she rushed on, her voice trembling. I know what I did. I know I ruined, her breath hitched. Please, just let me explain. I turned off the tap and reached for a towel. Matthew, say something. I dried my hands, folded the towel back neatly on the rack. Then I turned to her, looked her right in the eyes. Don't. That was all. Just one word. It landed like a closing door. She stood there, stunned. Her lip quivered, like she expected a speech, a scream, a fight. But I had nothing left to give her. Not a single sentence. Not even a question. I walked past her and into the bedroom, changed into a t-shirt and sweats, pulled back the covers, climbed in. She stood in the doorway for a long time, clutching her arms like they were the only thing holding her together. But I didn't say another word, and I didn't ask where she slept that night, because I already knew, whatever we had before, it wasn't in this house anymore. And neither was I. The next morning, the house felt like a stranger's. No coffee brewing. No soft footsteps from the kitchen. Just silence. I sat at the table with a plain bowl of cereal and the Sunday paper, turning pages without reading a word. Across from me, Francesca sat curled into herself like a guest waiting for bad news. Her eyes were red. Her voice hoarse. I didn't sleep, she said. I didn't respond. I kept replaying everything, she continued, barely above a whisper. How stupid it was. How I ruined everything. She sniffled. Waited. I spooned cereal slowly, staring at a headline I couldn't make sense of. Matthew, she tried again. Please, can we just talk? You don't have to forgive me. I just need you to know. It didn't mean anything. That got me to look up. Didn't mean anything, I repeated quietly. That's supposed to make it better? She winced. No. It was a mistake. A horrible, thoughtless moment. I nodded. Was it the only one? Francesca blinked. What? I leaned forward, resting my arms on the table. Was he the only one? She stared at me for a long beat, mouth slightly open, like the question had knocked the breath out of her. Then she looked down at her hands. Didn't answer. That silence told me everything I needed. I pushed the paper aside and stood up. We're done. She looked up sharply. What? You can stay here until the divorce is finalized, I said. After that, I want you gone. No, Matthew. Wait. She stood so quickly her chair screeched back. Don't say that yet. Please. We can go to counseling. I'll do anything. This was the worst mistake of my life. I believe you, I said. And I'm still done. Her face collapsed. She reached across the table like she could still grab onto something. You can't mean this. After everything we've built. I pulled my phone from my pocket, slid it across the table. The paused video was still open. Watch it again if you forget why. She didn't touch it. I stepped toward the hallway. I'll call a lawyer this week. Don't do this, she whispered. I turned to face her one last time. You tore it apart, Francesca. You don't get to ask me to pretend it's still standing. Her shoulders shook. She covered her mouth to stifle the sob. But I felt nothing. No hatred. No satisfaction. Just the cold certainty of someone finally done being hurt by the person he trusted most. I walked away without looking back. And for the first time in days, I felt something close to peace. Not because it stopped hurting, but because the decision was made. By Monday morning, the whispers had already started. I didn't say a word. Didn't mention the video, didn't forward it, didn't even bring it up. But something that big doesn't stay quiet in a company like ours. Especially not when it involves someone as high up as Howard Blake. I clocked in like usual. Signed off on inspection logs. Walked the floor like it was just another week. Except now, people glanced at me differently. Not with pity. Not even curiosity. With respect. By Wednesday, an email went out from Human Resources. Internal inquiry underway regarding employee conduct at the Maintenance and Innovation Gala. It didn't say names, but everyone knew. Howard wasn't at his desk, wasn't in meetings, wasn't on site at all. They said he was on leave. By the end of the week, 2 other women, both junior engineers, stepped forward with formal complaints. Inappropriate remarks, late-night texts, mentorship, lunches that didn't feel like mentorship. Apparently, I wasn't the first guy who had caught Howard Blake acting like the rules didn't apply to him. I still kept quiet, didn't respond to the rumors, didn't try to shape the story. I just worked. One morning, about 2 weeks after the gala, I was pulled into a meeting with HR. The tone was careful, neutral. "We understand you may have witnessed, or recorded, an incident involving Mr. Blake," they said. I nodded once. They asked for a copy of the video. I handed it over without a word. Didn't offer commentary, just the facts. That was enough. By Friday, the news dropped. Howard Blake, terminated effective immediately. Violations of company conduct, abuse of position, failure to disclose prior incidents. The company released a statement to the press, something about their commitment to a respectful, inclusive environment. All the usual PR lines. But beneath it all, I knew the truth. He wasn't just let go because of the gala. He was let go because he finally pushed too far, and someone had proof. That same afternoon, my department head pulled me aside. "You're our top candidate now," he said. "Lead hangar chief is yours if you want it." I thanked him. Then I declined. "Really?" He blinked. "You sure?" I nodded. "I want a transfer." "A transfer?" "Another facility. Somewhere quieter. Somewhere I can start clean." He looked at me like I had 2 heads. "Matthew, you've earned this. You've got it in the bag." "I know," I said. "And I'm not walking away. I don't want the title to come with all that history." He sat back, nodded slowly. "All right. We'll make it happen." The next week, the paperwork came through. I was assigned to a regional hangar outside Sacramento. Still high level, still respected. But different. Clean. Fresh. Everyone at headquarters buzzed about Howard's fall. Can you believe it? He always seemed too smooth. I heard he tried to threaten HR. I stayed out of it. There was no part of this I wanted to celebrate. Francesca's betrayal wrecked my marriage. Howard's misconduct wrecked his career. Both chose their paths. All I wanted was peace. Not revenge. Just the quiet dignity of moving forward without pretending nothing happened. And now, I finally had it. The new hangar was smaller, quieter, less politics, more work. Guys who showed up early, kept their heads down, and knew the sound of a torque wrench better than a boardroom pitch. It was exactly what I needed. Sacramento wasn't home yet, but it was clean. The apartment was modest, the commute was short, and for the first time in years, I woke up without that tight knot in my chest. I kept busy, focused on systems, schedules, certifications. I spent most of my time on the floor, tightening bolts, signing off repairs, mentoring the younger techs who were still green behind the ears. No one asked about Howard. No one knew about Francesca, and I didn't offer. Most nights, I got home, made something simple for dinner, and read until I fell asleep. No drama, no tension, just quiet. 3 weeks in, on a Thursday night, my phone buzzed. It was late, close to midnight. I almost didn't check it, but then I saw the name. Francesca. Just one message. "I miss you. Can we talk?" I stared at it. Not long. Just a few seconds. There was no anger in me. No spike of bitterness or pain. Just this distant sense of detachment. Like reading a sentence in someone else's story. She didn't know where I was. I'd never updated my address. Never posted anything. Never responded to her last message, the one she left after she moved out of the house. A voicemail I deleted without ever hitting play. This text was her first attempt since then. I looked at the screen one last time, then deleted the message. No reply. No goodbye. Just gone. I set the phone down and went back to my book. The clock ticked softly in the corner. Some people destroy their lives and never understand why. Some try to fix it with a half-hearted apology, a late-night text, a line that's supposed to undo all the damage. But that wasn't me anymore. I wouldn't be the man who looked back and wondered what could have been. I'd be the man who knew exactly what he walked away from, and exactly why he never turned around. Because peace, real peace, only shows up when you stop waiting for someone else to give it to you. And I wasn't waiting anymore.